So I am sitting in my wonderful Polestar EV. I call her Stella. We're charging at the moment, and she's, super cool. And while sitting here, I've just been kind of like remembering how I ended up in this crazy place where I own an electric vehicle and I'm, trying to make conscious, sustainable choices. And it all comes back to an accident I had earlier in the year, where I nearly went over a cliff, but I didn't. Totaled the car. Spent a month dealing with insurance, losing the car for a short period of time and then finding it, and then eventually ordering and receiving my lovely new Stella. But it was funny, the thing I was thinking about was when I got back into a car after the accident happened. It was a few days later. My insurance company had wonderfully given me a rental, and I had to get back in the car and drive to Set. It was pouring with rain, very similar to the day I had my accident, and I had to drive a very similar route to the roads that I had driven for my accident. And I remember being super determined to be okay. I was like, I'm going to get in that car and I'm not going to let this accident overpower me. I'm going to make sure that I'm fine. Because I'm fine. In hindsight, I was probably quite anxious. At the time, what I remember is I got in the car and I drove. And I drove at the speed limit. Didn't go slow like some weird granny or some really anxious person. I also drove so that I didn't slow down to a stop every time I hit a pothole and cause all these kinds of, difficulties on the road for other people who'd be really frustrated with me. I got to the destination and my hands were like this the entire time, but I got there and thought, yeah, cool. Congratulations, Renee. You did what you said you would do. You drove and you were fine in the rain, despite your accident. In hindsight, I've been thinking about it. If my aim was to be able to drive despite having had a car accident, I could have done that in the rain with the potholes during the terrible floods at a much slower speed and much more carefully, and been much more thoughtful about how I dealt with the potholes in my rental car. And I probably would have been normally than I was that day. And I realized it was because actually my goal that I was determined to achieve was not to drive through the rain despite having had an accident. I think it was I was determined to not be scared of driving in the rain with massive potholes on the road, which actually you probably should be a little bit anxious about. So it was almost like, even though in my head I knew what I was trying to achieve, by being so determined, it kind of blinkered me and it moved the goalpost of my goal to something that was not only realistically probably unachievable, considering I nearly died in an accident, not long before, but was probably also a little bit silly. Because you should be a little bit anxious when you're driving in the pouring rain and you can barely see in front of you and there are massive potholes on the road. You probably should be a little bit more careful. I don't think I was. Luckily, I was fine. I'm fine. And I'm past that, I think. Or am I just determined to think I'm past it?